Hello everyone, and welcome to another season of Gooey's Dungeon Dive, the podcast where I, Gooey, rank all of the dungeons in the Legend of Zelda series. And we are picking up our continuing quest, now in the land of Labrynna in Oracle of Ages. Controlling the body of Impa, the evil sorceress Varen tricks us into getting her past a sacred barrier that allows her to take control of Nehru, a beautiful singer in the Oracle of Ages. Giving her the ability to control time, she flees to the past to cause chaos throughout the land. Most notably, she convinces the ruler of Labrynna, Queen Ambi, to alter her plans for a tower she was building into the construction of a great black tower to the heavens. We must aid Nehru's overenthusiastic bodyguard Ralph in rescuing her and restoring the balance. We managed to save and receive guidance from a very amorous Maku tree, whose lost memory is key to the quest and must be restored with the essences of time spread throughout the land. She points us to our first destination, arming us with a seed satchel and some ember seeds. Residing within Yol Graveyard, we find the first dungeon, Spirit's Grave. So for the second time here in our Oracle journey, we've got another spooky graveyard dungeon, of course. You got your classic Keese, Ropes, Stalfos, etc., but the dungeon wouldn't be complete without ghosts, right? We have basic guineas, but also a maybe too easy mini-boss in the giant guinea. Seriously, I just kind of stood there and slashed away at him. Navigation-wise, this dungeon is back to basics, being the first one in this game. It has a fairly straightforward path to unlock and progress that it kind of leads you on. There are a few items and rooms you could skip over, but the simplicity of the dungeon casually teaches you about basic navigational concepts. It's pretty much a simplistic linear dungeon with some non-linearity baked in. As for the basic gameplay, it's also very simple. It's a lot of block pushing, pressing down switches, and torch lighting, and some of those elements combined. For example, it shows us this new block pushing puzzle that uses a colored block, and when a certain color side is facing up in the proper location in the room, it lights up some torches. I'm pretty sure that comes back later in the game and is a little bit more complicated. I was kind of glad to get those ember seeds before the dungeon. Just kind of getting that out of the way. Didn't really need that as a dungeon item. But that leaves us the dungeon item here, which is the power bracelet, which does not get too much use here specifically either. And to put a cap on this spooky little dungeon here is the boss, which is the spirit known as Pumpkinhead. And this guy, he's hilarious. After taking some hits, it's revealed that he's not a big pumpkin-headed man, but a little ghost guy hiding in the pumpkin. And he goes down pretty easy once you knock the spirit out. It's not a tough fight, but I don't know. I think this guy's funny, and so it kind of charms me. His defeat allows us access to the first essence of time and the dungeon map's inspiration, the Eternal Spirit. Even after life ends, it speaks across time to the heart. And there you have it. It's a very, very straightforward dungeon. So this might have been a quick description, but, you know, it's the intro, and it's showing us the ropes. And it's, like I said, it's straight. I wouldn't call it linear, but there's not much to really mess up, you know? There's some cool, like, there's like I didn't mention, like, there's like a room you gotta, like, burn some vines on the wall to get to. That's kind of fun for a little bonus. Oh yeah, overall I think it's solid, but it's not like, it's not the most exciting dungeon, let's say. Especially, you know, we're coming off, it depends. I'm not trying to factor this as a follow-up to Seasons necessarily, but you know, we're playing, I guess, for the story with the Kinect games. But anyway, I guess I also didn't really mention there is the connected element of, we had a little tease of Twin Rova in the beginning of the game there, but you know, they're in the background hanging out, but I don't think that's a big factor to the overall story from dungeon to dungeon. But you know, it'll come back up in the end of the game, of course. But as to where to place this, it's definitely, we got to work within the confines of those early first dungeons, so it's gonna kind of be sort of towards the bottom just because of its basicness. And I'm gonna start. So last time I remember the first dungeon I did better than the Eagle and worse than, I forgot where I said after that, Tail Cave, maybe. I think it's for sure way lower than that. How about in comparison to Gnarled Root, which is also the first dungeon? I actually think Gnarled Root was a little bit more fun, just because it had a very basic minecart. But it did. I think it had probably better backtracking. You know, I think the backtracking in this was like one room, and then once you get the boss key, back to the boss chamber. So I don't know, and I guess it depends if you miss some of the offshoot keys, and have to backtrack. Why not? I'll say Gnarled Root is better for sure. So that definitely, it's somewhere between the Eagle and Gnarled Root. Because yeah, there wasn't too much that was exciting about this. It felt, even though that this is kind of meant to be the more, I definitely get the sense that Seasons was a very action-oriented game. Never got too complicated and was always high intensity. And I know this gets a bit more puzzly. So here we only have some of the building blocks. So we're just pushing blocks and stuff like that, which I imagine we're going to be doing a lot. So for that, I'd even put it, I'm going to go much lower, actually, I think. Not too much, actually, but it's below Eastern Palace, I'm going to say. I'm going to bump it down a little bit more. I'm going to put Dodongo's Cavern above it, just slightly. They're both similarly basic, but Dodongo's Cavern gets a little bit of edge for being just slightly more memorable, and just, yeah, it's just a little bit more fun. Whereas this is okay, but it's not, I don't know, it's not, nothing totally stands out to me. It feels like here's this colored block, you know, remember this. Here's this element, remember this, but it's nothing totally crazy about it. So I think I'm gonna stick there. I think that's a nice humble beginning. It's one of the lowest first dungeons, unfortunately, but I do really like the Dungeons of Ages from what I remember, so I'm expecting them to take some bigger steps, and hopefully we can crack the top 10 in this season. I'm looking at the top, and it's tough, but I think it might be able to. So we're gonna keep an eye on that. But until then, I want to thank everybody for watching, and I will see you in the next one.